Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us for this latest episode of Big Brother's Big Archive. My name is Carl Bainbridge, and joining me as ever are my co-host, Mr. Carl Dutton.
Gonna be a bit calmer this time.
Mr. Joseph Tilley.
Keep it bottled.
And Mr. Paul Barron.
We say, you say, we all say, all the other stuff.
Where the hell was that supposed to be? Yes, but we're all together now, and we've got a great series which we're all together for as well. This is Big Brother 6. It's a series which I'd argue was pretty divisive when it first aired. A lot of people thought maybe a bit too negative for its own good, but I think the test of time, it's really done it the world of good, and I think a lot of people rate it as one of the higher.
It's one of those ones that's lived on as just legendary for the headlines it made, for the people it made, for the outrageous characters. It was at the peak of, you know, the second sort of wind of Big Brother with the evil era where it got really big again. So people always remember this one.
And quoting as a review from the Nostalgia Critics heavy metal one, it had boobies, lots and lots of boobies.
Yeah, it's very special for me because it's one of the first ones I actually sat down and watched all the way through.
And it's a very highly regarded series, and I think it's one which we're all really looking forward to. The first thing we're going to be discussing about, as we always do, we're going to be talking about launch night, and we're going to be talking about that cast. And I really got the impression with this cast that, obviously, Big Brother 5, which has been the most extreme, evil series up until that point, had proven so successful. And I really felt with 6, there was this real intent to go that extra step further, to push the realms of extremity a little bit more.
Yeah, I think other than, like, one person, as good as the characters were in 5, they were all very normal people. Whereas this year, I think they were like, okay, more of the... You know, we had the normal people went crazy. Let's see what crazy people do when they go crazy.
And it was bloody glorious.
Absolutely fantastic. And I think that's probably one of the biggest strengths of 6, and I think the reason why it's lasted the test of time so well is that the characters in this series are so strong. Even when you have a lesser character, someone who's a little bit less relevant, like, let's say, Roberto.
I would say that this was probably the year where the agent casting began.
Yes, and that was something I was coming to, because I believe this series had the first ever recruited housemate into the house, which was Derek.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. You could tell somebody of his character was something that they'd want. You could tell that he probably is not the type of person that would show up and stand in line for auditions.
And the idea of Derek doing that's just hilarious to me, though.
Yeah.
I would just really, really, really buckle. You see normal person, a really, really bold Chris Eubank standing in the line.
With all these ghastly people.
All these ghastly people. Ooh, that looks nice. A bit of a... yeah.
But I'm a big Derek fan, so that's something that's really going to come through over the show. Overall, though, lads, your impression of the cast, those 13 people that went in, who really stood out for you on launch night?
Joe, why don't you go first?
Yeah, sure. Stood up for me, probably I'd say definitely Anthony and Craig.
The bromance.
I thought that Roberto, he was an interesting character to start with. I'm not going to go into that yet because we're going to talk about it later.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very interesting to start with.
Roberto was my launch night favourite, I have to be honest.
Yeah. And everyone else was kind of middle. Alright.
Oh, friggin' dare you. I mean...
Oh, apart from Science. Science was amazing.
Thank you. You are now redeemed.
I actually rewatched launch night to give myself a bit of a reminder over this series. And for me, it has to be one of the best launch nights ever. Just so many great moments. And I mean, I won't go into all of them, but there's so many things that stand out to me as memorable. First of all, we get the first housemate ever to be booed going in. And that, ironically enough, by Big Brother standards, ends up being the winner.
But it is the standard that would set. The precedent for that will be set for the next 2 years. And we never, ever get a normal crowd again.
No. Yeah. I think that's a real shame. It just says someone like Sam Houston, for example. How big would the boos be for someone like her now when she got cheered in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Other things I remember about that launch night, I remember Craig's audition VT, which is just him effing and blind all the way, but he's god awful.
I was just waiting for the big, massive, Just all the way through the BT. Beep, while he's
We also get Mary's complete inability to understand how a door works.
Yay, scary Mary.
I love that she had the hood down over her head and she couldn't see where she was going. That was like, you didn't really think of that one. But it was just as everybody made their entrance that you knew, okay, she's a bit weird. Okay, well, Kamal can't even get down the stairs without making a comment. Derek's there going on about redecorating his flat. Literally everybody who entered had some sort of moment where it was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I was going to say the far too revealing stuff of Makosi would be into question as well.
Can anyone remember Makosi's audition dress? I didn't think there was anything too awful.
No, I think it was just pretty boring, really.
I mean, remember Leslie's nurse uniform?
Dude, no offense, but anything's far too revealing for Makosi's taste.
Yeah, but when she went in, she was you thought she was going to be kind of this African entitled princess type thing. Boy, she was like, I'm this virgin, I'm this thing. Wow, did she end up being the opposite? Jeez.
Carl,
And we loved it for it.
Carl, please remind me to mention Makosi in the final week, because I've got the funniest thing to tell you.
I'll remember, Joe. Don't worry. But we are going to be talking about Makosi, and we're going to be talking about that launch night twist. Now, launch night twist, it's always something that we always get every single year. And to be frank, we're a little bit sick of it now. This one, though, Makosi's launch night twist, where she's the unlucky 13th housemate, that has to be up there as one of the best ones, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The only time that the mole thing actually worked. Because
Yes.
the housemate was up for it and people actually fell for it, where they said, you'll go and do all this stuff, and she became the most hated housemate that week. And really, it kind of set the tone for her for the rest of the series, really, because she never kind of came back from that when you realised, oh, she wasn't acting, she just is a bitch.
I'd argue the opposite. I think for the first few weeks, I think that Makosi had the public on the side. And I think especially because you knew she was supposed to be annoying.
True.
So,
I think people realised that she was just going all out with every task. She was told to do this, so she did it to the best of her ability, which was awesome. But at the same time, she's the one who tossed in those kind of moments where she just kept on playing them even after she didn't have to.
yes.
Yeah.
But I think as well what helped her, especially around those middle weeks, was there was always someone who was a little bit more antagonistic, so that she would always look good. But when they ran out, she became the antagonist, and that's when that good run came to an end, and the negatives really came to the forefront.
And then the negatives became more.
Yeah, but she never went up, so she lasted till the end.
She did, and she did fantastic stuff. So what did we all think of the task? Because originally when I heard the idea, I just thought, oh god, this is going to fail so spectacularly. And yet, largely because of Makosi and how good she was, it was fantastic. It was great television.
Well, I think it was a good task, a good first task, not as good as some of the first tasks I've seen, but I do think she's a fantastic actress, and she did do it really well. Actress in blunt terms, she was a bitch, but yeah, I think she did really well.
I think, to be honest, this was this was practically something to try out for the rest of, Big Brother's, runtime until it transformed into Channel 5, which will see something like this every single series.
Yes. I was actually going to mention that it felt very Channel 5 style.
Yeah, I mean, it really set the standard again for what the show would become. We'd never seen this stuff before, and it was special and unique for that. People fell for it because it hadn't been done before, and this was the first time really where there's so many times where they give them these missions. It's like, oh, this is going to be good, and it always underwhelms. This was one of the only times where, no, Makosi outperformed, she overperformed what she needed to do, which which is what makes her one of those legendary housemates, because she didn't give a damn, and obviously she paid for it when she came out of the house for her reputation and being kicked out of her country and all this other stuff that happened. That's just insane. But
how the hell did you get kicked out of your own how the hell could you get kicked out of your own country?
With bad press apparently. But she went all out for this show. Nobody can say that she didn't put everything into being a housemate.
And I think that's why she's so highly regarded by the community. Even people who didn't particularly like Makosi as a person loved her as a housemate just because of how much she put into it.
Yeah, I mean, I never disliked her as a person, but it was just, again, it was this stuff where it was, she was obviously deciding to be a character throughout, and you were never quite sure who the real one was.
Yes.
And plus the fact she brought a big asset to the entire sort of...
A couple of big assets.
Yeah, there we go. I was trying to keep away from the boob joke sort of thing. So.
I think we know what Paul's mind's going to be occupied by during the podcast. But another person who was really causing the discussion during that time was Mary. And particularly Mary's behaviour, because Mary came in, the whole gimmick about Mary at that point was that she was a white witch. That was the big selling point of Mary, which was the witch. But from a very early stage, we saw someone in the house who was, I don't know, quite fragile, I thought. Almost immediately she wanted to quit, and it was very telling as well that she couldn't keep up the witch gimmick, which I get the feeling production tried to push her towards.
Yeah, that if it was in Channel 5 era, there would have been a task based around her giving them curses, wouldn't there?
This is complete Channel 5, I say.
But no, nevertheless, I mean, for me, I remember when she went in, I was like, oh, cool, you know, somebody who, because at the time I was into sort of the gothic and the rock culture. I was like, okay, somebody of that, you know, somebody to represent our culture going in, that's cool. But she ended up being just so, first of all, she ended up being so miserable, and then by the end, she just ended up being so kind of, she just couldn't get on in there for some reason. I guess she just didn't like the people, I suppose, and it seemed like, the whole witch thing kind of overwhelmed her, either whether it was because it was pushed on her or because it was she couldn't keep it up or explain it to the people in there, because she was expecting maybe to be the big character, but when her thing was sort of, oh yeah, that's just your gimmick, everyone else is so much louder, she just kind of seemed like she was lost.
Yeah, and I think as well, in particular with the whole witch gimmick as well, one of the things I found quite interesting was She had the witch and Halloween themed birthday party because it was a birthday during the first week, and I remember she was given a broom by Big Brother as like a present.
Oh yeah.
And she seemed very uneasy. I felt about that. She was like, "Oh, I'm gonna love my broom, I'm gonna fly away," and you could tell she was just like, "Can we just leave it alone now, please?"
It was just cringy, but I think the thing that really was her downfall was how Saskia was kind of her mate for the first couple of days.
Yes.
And then when she turned on her, that was the moment where people was just like, okay, we're done with you now.
Yeah. I was actually going to bring up the Saskia and Mary argument. Do you have an opinion about that one, Joe?
Yeah, I kind of think that Saskia was a bit unfair with what she said to Mary. You know, if it's what you believe in, whether she is or not, or was forced upon it, then it's her right.
Great. We move on though. Of course, we go back to Makosi and her task. Now, nominations ended up taking place, and Makosi ended up being up that week along with Sam and Roberto.
Oh no.
But of course, nominations were voided. Makosi ended up passing a task, but has a reward, in inverted commas. She gets to choose the two nominees on her own. And she chooses Craig and Mary. I've got two questions to ask about that. The first one is, what did you make of Makosi's nomination choices at that point? And second of all, had it been Makosi, Roberto and Sam, who do you think would have gone?
Probably Makosi.
Yeah, I'd say Makosi.
I would say Makosi too, but unfortunately this would probably be an early sort of thing. I mean, you know, we need to milk this as much as we can for anything.
But at the same time, how can you tell? Because would she have been a completely different person had she not had that task? That's the question. Would she have even been nominated if it was for that task? So you can't separate her being nominated from the task, really.
Yeah, and am I right in saying as well, if Makosi did fill the task, she would have been up every week?
Just
imagine that. Because that would have predated the killer nomination.
I think so, something like that, yeah.
Something like that. But the Craig and Mary choices, we could sort of understand why Mary ended up going up that week. What about Craig?
Well, I think Craig really, he did calm down in the later weeks a little bit, not too much, but he was a bit of a screaming queen to start with.
To sum up, Craig it would have to be, again quoting something from that guy with the glasses, the
John Cheek.
So yeah, just, but after a while you do see a little bit more development with Craig.
Yes, he developed the fondling of Anthony. Yeah.
Hey, that predates the bromance, so remember that. If it weren't for him, we wouldn't have a big forehead bromance inventor right there. Seriously, that thing's huge. You could put a cinema screen on it.
I love what goes on in your head sometimes, Paul.
Grab the porn, like it.
But yeah, Craig and Mary go up that week, and I don't know. I found it a very, very closely fought eviction. I honestly, a lot of the firms, a lot of the bookies couldn't really tell which one was going to go. And I think I'm right in saying that Craig was actually the favourite to go up until the final day.
Yeah.
What I think saved Craig though was the next thing we're going to be talking about, which is the diminishing his character rant.
Oh yeah.
Does he actually know what that word means?
I assume so, yeah.
Well, translation, you're all bigger characters than me, so you're making me not have as much airtime.
Yeah.
And what I found very telling as well was the moments after Craig made up that rant, he then turns and starts singing Britney Spears. Any other opinions on Craig's behaviour in that first week?
He was the outcast. It was those two being chosen was kind of the easy choices. They were they didn't fit into the group mold, and this was his plea to be put back into that group. And I think this is where he found his way into that kind of last on the rung of the cool group. He was sort of the clinger onto the cool group, the expendable one.
There was an element of that, but I think in the end it did end up saving him. Although I would argue, we talk about this mythical 15-0 streak of females going first. If there was one time that was in danger, in my opinion, it was this week.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But of course, Mary ends up going that week, and I think it was about 60% of the vote, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And this is where we get to talk about Mary as a housemaid, because I always believe that every housemaid, in my opinion, has a shelf life. As much as we like bigger characters to stay around until the end, at the same time, you want them to go before they end up getting stale. And I think that was something which, in my opinion, was always held against Helen from Big Brother 15, but we won't go back into that, obviously. And I think Mary's a similar thing. I think Mary's the sort of character who could only work as a week one boot.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, you're basically a 2000s goth going into a house of really, really, really socially clever people.
I think it was down to the fact that I think the whole White Witch thing was I think it was a part of her personality. I think it's just something she probably mentioned offhandedly in an interview, like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm a White Witch. And then production decided to make that everything about her and made it into sort of a cartoony stereotype, which I don't think she was comfortable with, and that was really, became all she was about, really, in the edit.
But it's a shame as well, because I did feel that Mary had a lot more depth to that. I don't that sense would have been this big, complex character, but I don't know, I could have seen it being a bit like Liz Jones.
Yeah.
That sort of, like, maybe not a massive character, but that sort of cult following who people...
Liz Jones is like if Mary was melting.
Well, ironic witches melting, that works.
Yep.
We're going up to week 2 now, and we start with the counting task. Simple, count as high as you can, 1, 2, 3, 4. One thing is, Big Brother is going to do what it can to try and distract you. It's going to dress you up in silly costumes, it's going to try and put you off. And really, I put this in because it highlights to me something that's lacking in the Channel 5 era, which is, back then, during the evil era, Big Brother as an entity, had a really cheeky sense of humour.
Oh, yeah.
It was in on the joke in a way which I don't feel it is really with the Channel 5 era of the show.
It was having fun. It was something that was just, this is going to be sort of stupid, hilarious fun as we just do everything we can to annoy these people and see what the reaction is.
And this is where I loved the Channel 4 series, because it wasn't just, a few guys pulling around some stupid stuff. It was basically acting like the house and Big Brother itself was basically a living entity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, back then it was all about what can we do to make fun television, whereas what it's about now is what can we do to cause another argument.
And
It's gone down the Jeremy Kyle mode now.
Yeah.
as we like.
Back then they wanted to make us laugh. Now they want to make the housemates argue.
And this is where I'm now quoting something from another friend of mine. It is called, which I like to call, corpse in makeup syndrome, which is basically that's it. It's not Big Brother anymore. It's basically a corpse painted up in makeup and put out in the streets so it can just.
It's this series. It's like you take elements on this series and put it on Speed. It's kind of like all the cherry-picked moments, but without any of the kind of lead-up. It's the Vince Russo-esque writing. It's kind of taking all the highlights, but without any of the patient build-up that goes between it.
Yeah.
So are we going to have Anthony and Craig in the Makosi on a pole match soon?
Yes.
I'm game. I'm sorry, but just.
Well, we'll get there, Paul. Don't worry, we'll get there. Next up, though, we're going to be coming to the hospital task, which is our first.
Can I say, Paul, don't get abreast of yourself.
God.
That's weak, Joe. That's weak.
It was wonderful.
No.
Yeah. We come up to the hospital task now. Each housemates are put into different medical care sort of situations. So we have broken legs. We have a couple of housemates playing the doctors. I think I'm right in saying Roberto was the lead doctor.
I think this was wasn't this where the whole argument between Sam and Sam and Leslie came out because Sam was just like, oh no, I'm just taking this cast off, I can't be bothered to do it, and then Leslie got all up in her and became super chav and just started basically bullying her at that point, and it was just like, Sam was being a mardy bitch for not doing it, but Leslie is just being a complete utter bully, so
yes.
For some odd reason, you just explained to me how some of the British comics will probably be made. A medical accident broke her leg, but a mutation made her into Super Chav. it's just basically, it's the Incredible Hulk
with a Burberry cape. No. For me, this kind of highlights, and I mean, obviously they're having the arguments at this point. Science and Derek were sort of becoming the sort of big characters that were causing the arguments and being these insane characters, and it kind of this series is so much fun to watch, but I would argue that there's no real people you can root for the most part, and I think it's kind of like watching, it's like, I don't care about any of these people. They're all in the wrong. They're all just insane people who are all just out to cause arguments with each other. And the fun of it is almost like car crash television. You're watching to see what these crazy people are going to do next.
Yes.
Yeah.
Car crash television. Bloody Science wasn't becoming a big character. He was a big character.
Science was absolutely amazing. I feel this was really the emergence of Science, in my opinion. I think week 1... he had his moments. There was the stuff with the chicken, but I think week 2 was really when. Well, Science had this thing. He had this thing about hygiene where he wouldn't eat the bum of the chicken.
Yes.
So he cut off half the chicken, and of course you're feeding 13 people.
Yeah. people getting arguments. It's amazing how much chicken causes arguments and things like that. But yeah, was this the week where he threw the bin?
Yes!
At Maxwell, yeah. Like, they got into an argument, and then, for utterly no reason, they're in this argument, and he disappears off screen, and then suddenly this bin comes flying onto the screen, and it's like, what?
Dark bin.
I think it was a water fight. I think they were having a water fight, and Anthony and Saskia were watching Maxwell. Maxwell's got like a small cup of water in his hand, and they say, "Get him, go get him." Maxwell chucks the cup of water, and just out of nowhere, Science just flings a pin at him.
Yeah, it's like, it's like Science just had this, I don't know, you can't like the guy for being a great person, but because he obviously overreacted to stuff and caused all the drama and conflict that he got into was his own fault. But He was fascinating from sort of a psychological standpoint. Like, what did you expect to happen there? You escalated it from a water fight to a physical.
What I love about that is Maxwell gets really annoyed at them, obviously.
Yeah.
And he's up to Science's face, like, come on, throw a bit of me again. And Science is like, what? What did I do? I didn't do anything.
Maybe
Can I say as well?
Maybe watching him was like doing science.
Yeah. Can I just say is as well as about Maxwell, Pancake is all I'm gonna say.
Yes, this is where Saskia, through winning the counting task, she got to hand out challenges to everyone. And one of them was she had to make Maxwell wear, I believe, a thong. And I was thong.
That's wrong one. What it was Maxwell didn't bring underpants into the house.
Yes.
So he asked Big Brother for some underpants. He got them, didn't like them, so set fire to them.
Yes, I think it's Nyla's first thought.
Them dress up in a baby costume and sit on the naughty step for 3 hours.
And to be fair, during that second week, Maxwell was perfectly fine. I know he goes.
Yeah, this was where Saskia and Maxwell and Anthony were like the heroes of the show, and then they heard that reaction on that week's eviction, and it went to their heads.
Yeah.
Can I also mention before we move on as well, just go back to the hospital task, the star of the show, in my opinion, during that task was pregnant Craig.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Oh my lord.
It was amazing.
Oh God.
Craig was fantastic in that role, though. He played it really well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It reminds me of. Do you remember the TV show Dick and Dom in the Bungalow?
Oh yeah.
They did one stunt that got tons of complaints about. I think it was Dick. Was having babies shooting out of his. He was fully dressed. He was having babies shooting out of him. Apparently that and creamy muck, and that caused hundreds of complaints. But it just reminded me of that. It was so funny.
Yeah, I mean, this second week at this point, the show had hit into full stride. It was just like TV gold every single night of just either hilarious insanity or an argument that was just like, where did that even come from? Like, who are these people? They're just insane. Like, they would just go from 1 to 1,000 in 2 seconds. You don't even know what it was about.
But then the question is, why did they decide to make an all-up vote to evict that week?
I don't know. Maybe they were trying to get rid of somebody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe someone with the physical power of throwing a slightly big bin at someone else.
Well, sadly, the scary thing was, even without that, I don't remember signs ever being a consideration to go that week. Which is a sign of just how insane the house that somebody could chuck a bin at someone and not be in danger of being kicked out.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think he had this element to him, which is something that is sorely missed a lot lately, where even though he's being really out of order, he's doing it in such a way that's funny. Like, it's like he's arguing and he's being, but he's doing it in almost an over-the-top pantomime way.
Yes.
Where it's like you can't take it nasty or seriously because it's just like, what? You threw a bin at him because he was, what?
And for me, that's always been the best type of Big Brother villain, where they have that sort of charm and that sort of ridiculousness that means you can't get wound up with them. And
I think that's why he got popular later on, because he was against the cool group that became the insiders, the people hated because they were cocky and they thought they were going to win. So he's against them. So then he became the good guy because people found him so entertaining. And then it went out the other end by the end where, people were like, okay, no, now he's just becoming horrible again.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
But of course, it's an all-up vote to evict that week. Everybody's facing the public vote, and it was pretty inevitable Leslie was going to go.
Super chav.
Yeah, 36% of the vote against 12 people.
She was like, I'm going to wait for you when I get out of here and all this stuff. It's like, oh, get lost.
Yeah.
Had the whole chav culture thing really got into a stride at that point?
Oh, God, yes. Believe me, I was at college at the time. Yes, it had.
So I think that would have played in against Leslie as well, but were there any sort of positive aspects about Leslie? We try and see the good side of people in here most of the time, so was there anything? Because, the week before, she received no votes to evict from the housemates. So she must have been doing something right.
Nah.
Yeah.
I think that the silence actually sums it up itself, because, to be honest, Chavs usually don't make the best characters. They just be angry and stupid and annoying, and you just really want to punch them more than bloody nerds, except they fight back.
What hurt Leslie more than anything was the treatment of Sam. I think really that got too far.
It came across as too aggressive. It came across as nasty. It was going to another personal level where it's threatening physical violence rather than just having an argument, which the others didn't.
I don't think he ever got a warning for it though, which surprised me.
Oh, because Big Brother wasn't super on edge back then because Shieldbred hadn't happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other things I note about Leslie, just trying to keep the topic on her. There was the whole thing about her having the biggest boobs in Huddersfield. Or was it second? Was it second biggest and my mum's was the biggest?
I wonder where she is now.
I wonder, yeah.
What these guys are now.
And then there was her latex uniforms, once you were coming into the house and once you were coming out.
Nothing wrong with latex.
Yeah, the nurse one.
You have to have some type of special confidence to say, I'm going to go in and out the house in front of millions of people as a stripper.
Well, it didn't stop Bianca.
True.
I'm not going to go there because I'll probably make another Makosi joke there. So.
Yeah.
What? She's hot. She's a hot.
We'll get there, Paul, don't worry, we'll get there. Because we have to spend probably the next 20 minutes talking about the box task.
Oh, yes.
One of my all-time favourite Big Brother tasks. But it was fantastic as well because it was just such a simple concept. It was just, here's a cardboard box, stay in there as long as you can. But because these characters were so big and so provocative, they were able to pull it off. And it was 3 days of some of the best television.
Yeah. It was just amazing television that you just couldn't look away from it. It was just so good.
Do you want to take this one, Carl?
Who's this again, sorry?
The box task.
Oh, yes. Dear Lord. If they want to keep repeating tasks that were good, and they just keep doing them over and over again, I'm sick of the bed sit. I'm sick of the stop and start task. Remember this one? This one was just so good. It was, I don't know if they did it too much, it'd get old, but I think it's because we had it this one major time, and then the production were at a creative high where they were coming up with brilliant things to do that were just kind of one day things, 1 week things, and it didn't seem as kind of this trite kind of riff on something that had done before. It seemed like something fresh and new and really added something to the show. Like it was like, okay, this has absolutely nothing to do with the overall week, but this is just something random that they did that day that just became legendary because it was just a brilliant thing where it gets just everything down to the editing where they would zoom in on the faces on the boxes to the, Sam apparently having a good time in the box.
I remember that actually.
There was just so many elements to it that it just delivered on everything, and this is what is missing today. Everything they come up with today, it just seems like it's like, oh god, this again. Whereas back then it was like, oh my god, these guys who's coming up with this stuff? They're brilliant.
Yeah, I mean the argument between Science and Kamal in the box,
brilliant,
was genius.
I would like to think of them as Lucas Games, LucasArts Games. Basically, all the creative people that made the games previous, that were absolutely cult followings and legends, have been sacked and put in with some stupid morons that do the same sort of bullshit with Star Wars every single game.
Wouldn't that be Sonic?
But I would say that it's the same people today running the show. I just think that all the people who had restraint are gone, and it's just all the people who thought this stuff was good, but, don't understand that you've got to do it in moderation, otherwise it becomes too much.
Yes, I agree there. There were so many great moments about the box task. As Joe mentioned before, the argument between Science and Kamal. Which again, it works well because of the creativity of the housemates.
They delivered it was kind of a 50-50 thing. Production were delivering, they were delivering. It was the show was hitting on all cylinders.
Am I right in saying as well? This is the first time that Anthony makes the joke about Craig's huge head.
Huge.
Yeah, it is.
Head.
Anthony, stop it.
You've got a huge head.
But I think I'm right in saying that Phil Edgar Jones, who was producing that series, I believe, he said they only expected the box task to last about 2 hours. It ended up lasting 3 days.
Does it get? And that's the other thing. Where back then they were like, I think maybe because the show was so big and they knew how many people had seen it. Back then they were like, no, we are going to do this to the best of our ability. That year, every single task, every single thing that was set for them to do, like the one where they were going on dates. And they were, I don't know if you got that on your notes, but when they were going on the dates and it was Roberto and,
Derek.
No, not Derek, Kamal. And they hated each other, but they were like flirting and almost kissing and like everything that was set, they did to their best of their ability. They tried the hardest to do it and deliver 110%. Whereas now, it seems like they're like, oh, I can't be bothered.
Things I remember about the dating task, I have actually got that in the notes. Some things I note, was it Sam and Makosi who had a lesbian kiss between the two?
Yes, it was. Oh my god.
And also, I believe it was Derek and Kamal. They started flirting between them, but Derek was in drag. So we have this great moment where, because we know Marcus, he's very hammed up now. He plays up a lot with his accent, but back then he was very dry. And the idea of Marcus just dryly saying, Derek is putting on women's clothes in the bedroom. It's like just an awful thing.
Just as matter of factly, yeah.
I can just imagine him switching up his mic going, what am I looking at?
Other things that happened during that week, we had the pirate task.
Oh god.
Where the housemates spectacularly failed it, and largely because of Science's abilities as a captain.
Science went too far. They all rebelled against him because he was getting too far into it. They were just like, you know what, fuck you. So that's pretty much what happened, and they failed because of it. But Science got full into it. Captain Science.
I be bringing the truth. You better be learning from me, matey.
And there was also that great moment where they had to do a morning shanty, where they all had to sing "We Are the Pirates," that sort of thing, and there was just Craig's complete inability to remember the words.
Yeah.
He's just like looking at each other, just like, okay, yeah.
Yarg.
Move on though, and we go on to the eviction that week, which is Derek versus Roberto versus Sam, and it's quite surprising as well because, especially maybe we live in more of this victim culture within Big Brother, where basically if you're seen as being bullied, you're pretty much golden until the end.
Yes.
We had Sam, who the week before was the big victim against Leslie, who you'd assume in a modern climate would be scot-free. She ends up going that week.
Well, because I think that she was only the victim because of that. She was a pretentious, stuck-up little girl, but at the same time, she was nice enough, and when Leslie went too far, she had something to play off. As soon as Leslie went, it was like, oh yeah, she's still that stuck-up girl that we didn't like before, but now she doesn't have somebody being mean to her, so we realised that, so, yeah.
Yeah, I can't even do the car there.
She wasn't awful though as a stuck-up girl.
She wasn't a horrible person, she just, again, she had this kind of little girl, bratty kind of thing going on.
Apparently a hot little bratty girl going on for her.
Oh yeah, she's very stunning. Very good looking girl.
I got up to a little bit of, sort of stuff going on.
Well, I mean, her eviction was the best Davina moment ever, wasn't it? With the
yes, totally.
Getting into the bikini.
Yes. I think I need more.
You want to talk about that one?
Oh my god, we gave Carl hot flushes. Holy crap!
Well, yeah, probably one of the best Davina moments where she does the interview, because that was the big thing about Sam, how she just spent all of the time in a bikini. So Davina conducted the interview in one herself.
Again, obviously production, her came up with that. It was just going that extra mile just to make it that much more fun, that much better, that they just... What happened?
And I'm gutted they've never done it with Emma Willis yet, though.
True.
The sad thing is though, with the Channel 5 era, it would probably be violent.
We didn't even talk about any of the controversial stuff.
Oh, that's coming up now. Woohoo! Yeah. Before we get there though, we're going to be talking about the Room 101 task. Now, again, this is another really clever task, and especially with it having 1984 undertones. I love it when Big Brother refers back to the book, and something we don't really get much of these days.
Oh yeah, they completely forgot the original concept at this point, yeah.
Well, we had this Room 101 task where basically Maxwell, as contestant number 1, was sent into a room and had to do these series of revolting tasks. So it would be sorting out coloured maggots, etc. And to be fair to him, Maxwell was very good in the role. I think I enjoyed Maxwell in the role. But the big thing I found very interesting was Vanessa's behaviour. Because Vanessa originally was housemate number 1. And once she realised what she had to do in the task, just completely cowered out of it. And almost felt no remorse once she realised that she was one of those people who was going to be getting all the benefits, while poor Maxwell, who took her place, was suffering.
Yeah.
And I think...
That selfishness that was kind of, Maxwell was being so kind of getting on with it, getting his head down, and whereas Vanessa are just, just selfish, yeah.
But I think as well, because Vanessa, I believe, didn't Vanessa sprain her leg or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was walking with a bit of a limp. The moment the bouncy castle came, she was fine and dandy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so injured. I'm so wounded.
Again, the production went on all cylinders. This was another brilliant task. A great concept, greatly pulled off. Again, it benefited from not being done before. If you want to know how good this task was, this is one of the ones that Australia stole a couple of years ago. So it obviously has lived on in legend.
These days the Australian version's top dog now.
Oh, the Australian version is if anybody hasn't seen, but the Australian version is basically trying to emulate this era. Our version almost wants to live in that kind of 2009, 2010 era, but more camp. Whereas the Australian version, they see this era as the best era, like the fans do.
Yes, certainly. Move on during the other week, though. Other things that happened during that week. We had Science's brilliant Free Tweedles rant.
Yes.
Yeah, this was where he was at the height of him being sort of heroic science against the evil, egotistical gits. But, obviously that's all down to crowd reaction, how they were acting and editing and all that kind of stuff. But at this point, he was sort of he was on the side of good in the view of the edit and of the crowd. So him saying this rant against them kind of lived on in legend for that reason.
But it was very clever as well. One of the things I always felt with Science was, most of the time when you get that sort of loud, obnoxious type, they're usually a bit mindless to go with it. Science was a very intelligent lad, I felt.
Yes, he was very smart.
Oh yeah, I think that's the reason why he's called Science. And because the fact that also, since doing Big Brother, he's also opened up a YouTube channel, which I haven't found yet. It's like the holy fucking grail. To be honest, he is a smart lad, and
it's just wit. It's just that improv wit.
Yeah. Yes, there was a lot of witty housemates this year.
Yeah, which made the arguments fun because they became almost like rap battles.
Oh yeah. But also his fleeting insanity when he was making friends with some of the equipment, like the orb. The orb video camera or something.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Orby, as he liked to call it.
Oh, Lord.
I forgot about Orby. I've completely forgot.
What do you think, Orby? What do you think of all this? Oh, God.
One of the things the rant also highlighted to me was there was a real divide in that house. And I don't know if it's something we look at retrospectively or if it was coincidence, for example. But I found it very telling that all of those who were in the cool kid group, as it were, like the likes of Maxwell, Anthony, Saskia, and Craig.
And they thought there.
But they were all contestants who were all white and all English. And the opposing side of the house, the likes of Derek, Makosi, Kamal, Vanessa, Derek, and to a lesser extent Roberto, they were all housemates who were either black, mixed race, or born outside of Britain.
Or sexy.
Yeah.
And I found it very telling that maybe it's because the whole Shilpa thing has happened and there's all that racism controversy that gone with it, but I found it very telling that there was this big divide with an arguable racial undertone.
Yeah, I always got that. Because of the fact that, it was... When was it said?
This was 2005, and that's another good point as well, because I don't think the housemates would have known, but the London bombings had just happened as well that year. So I think that was another factor.
And maybe in this day and age, the production would have stepped in and said, no, we don't like this divide because it's implying this. But it was almost kind of, they felt outcast, so they kind of grouped together and started pulling the race card. And at the moment they pulled the race card, it made the divide that much bigger. It's kind of, as soon as you go to that element, you can't fight against that. There's no comeback against the race card. So as soon as that was pulled, it was like, well, here we go. You know, you've just made the chasm that much bigger between you now.
Grab your crash helmets. We're going
as soon as it was maybe an undertone, maybe before, but as soon as it was called out by the minority, then you can't. What can you say?
Because I seem to remember that Maxwell and Anthony, they would deliberately sing like English patriotic songs. They'd sing like "God Save the Queen," "Land of Hope and Glory," etc., to try and wind up the mixed race housemates.
But why?
Because
I don't think it was intentional. I don't think they were doing it on purpose.
I think Maxwell would. I think obviously Anthony is just a lad, but I think Maxwell definitely, he was a good guy for the most part, but he definitely had this kind of laddish sort of, the other side of laddish behaviour.
The bad side.
Yeah. He liked winding people up.
But mind you, on the other hand, I'm just gonna leave that alone now because I know I'm gonna save Makosi here. So insert boo Makosi joke here.
Yes.
Which, to tell you the truth, I would just go in the corner.
However, Paul, have you got any jokes to say about Roberto?
Roberto.
Because of course, we had the Dirk versus Roberto eviction. A one-on-one eviction, that's something which actually existed, people.
What?
I know. That was
like seeing a unicorn.
Time ago.
I'm trying to think, when was the last one-on-one eviction in a proper
They don't do it anymore. Nowadays, if there's people with 3 votes and 4 votes and 5 votes, they'll then add everybody who's had 1 vote in.
I think
so you can get as many people up as possible.
I think it was Lauren versus Luke, people who were 13. I think it was the last one-on-one eviction in a civilian series.
Yeah.
Behold the logic. Where is it? It's gone.
No, the logic is they looked at their numbers and saw that they make more money when they put more people up, so they put more people up to make more money.
Yeah.
But we get this Dirk versus Roberto eviction, and it's Roberto who ends up going that week. And again, I think it's very telling. I mentioned this before at the start of the show. I think it's very telling that Roberto was arguably one of the lesser characters of that series. Maybe not, definitely not someone who you consider an all-star. But even he had his big moments. Even he had his quirky, funny moments where he stood out as a character. I think that's a sign of how good the series was. That someone like Roberto can still have a bit of a fan base.
Yeah, he tipped his freaking spaghetti all over Maxwell's head. He was an outrageous character too. The other ones were so outrageous. Like, if Roberto was in a series now, he would be one of the big characters. But because these other characters were so big, he was less so.
Was that any chance of an innuendo right there? Because I'm pretty confused with this series. Because
it was genuine spaghetti, don't worry.
Are we talking, genuine spaghetti or someone's wet noodle?
No, it's like they were having an argument over Maxwell taking too much food, and they were arguing about it, and Roberto was just like, "Here, you want your food," and he tipped it on his head.
Oh, fair dues.
And there was some great funny Roberto moments as well. There was the whole whatever Minga thing, which to be honest, I still do.
It was kind of like he had found that out last week and was emulating it.
Mother Funky was another one which I loved.
What the hell are you doing, you motherfucker?
and of course, because he'd been living in Liverpool for a long time, so he had the sort of like half Italian, half Scouse twang, which I thought was
Yeah.
Now that is something that you'll probably need an interpreter for almost anything. Oh, lad, how's it doing? Let's go down to the Blackpool and get ourselves a little bit of a whippy.
But any other great Roberto moments people remember?
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I'm making a video.
Hello?
Hello?
Yep.
Yeah, we're okay. We'll cut that out. Carl will cut that out when we get to the con. But we move on to week 5, and we move on to the Intruders entering the house in Big Brother's secret garden. And now this was basically, I wouldn't say it's a bed sit, but it's sort of an evolution of that. Of course, it's gone from 2 housemates coming in to 3 housemates, and we end up getting Kinga, Eugene, and Orla coming into that.
Hey.
Yeah, and again, this was the first kind of taste of the silliness where they took the tasks and made them kind of silly, which, again is something that has overtaken the show now. You see the seeds of what's happened to the show in these good ones.
Silly. It was dressed up like a friggin' jungle, for crying out loud.
Exactly. But I find it hilarious that Kinga was the one to go, but because she was so entertaining, they brought her back. Because, they were, at that point, their only thing was, well, you were a good character, so we're going to give you a chance to go back in anyway. Channel 4 didn't really give a crap about the voting, let's put it that way.
But I think as well what helped Kinga in that regard was it wasn't the public which decided to get rid of Kinga. So it wasn't like people spent money to get rid of her, so yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing as Sam Pepper later on.
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
and
no.
in fact I can see a lot of comparisons between Kinga and Sam Pepper, and I'll get to them later.
I'm trying not to think of one thing that is more of a comparison to...
I should hope not. I hope he didn't have that moment. Jesus.
Yes, let's just keep it on the hush-hush right now.
But of course the way they managed to get rid of one of the Secret Garden housemates was, again, it was another Makosi thing, and I don't know if it was Makosi just managing to fall into these situations, or she did things deliberately with the intent to try and...
I think they just realised she was their star performer who would go all out to do a secret task, so they kept on going with what worked, I think.
So of course they have that big button which says do not press the button, and then underneath press here. And of course science being science actually presses the here written down.
He doesn't press on the button. He basically takes a hammer and smashes it into oblivion.
Because if you told science the sky was blue, he'd argue that it was pink.
Or, look at this patch of grass. This is green. No, it's polka dot.
But of course, Makosi presses a button. She's allowed to live in the secret garden with the other housemates, and then eventually she chooses 2 of them to come into the house with her. And she ends up choosing Olaf and Eugene, and we think that's all we're ever going to see of Kinga, of course. We're going to see a hell of a lot more of Kinga coming in later weeks.
Let's make this a little bit of a,
Poor Eugene as well. He was just kind of a geek and just kind of a social recluse, and he was just put in there with these wild, insane sort of characters, and he just looked shell-shocked.
Yes.
Yeah. Poor Eugene.
Eugene really grew over the weeks, and we'll touch on that as we get on as well. The one thing I do want to bring up, though, is the fall of Maxwell. Now, we sort of touched on it during week 4, but I think week 5 we really began to see this arrogant side to him. And I mean, people always mention the big downfall stories of Big Brother. They always mention the likes of Freddie, Wolfie. I can imagine Pauline's going to get the same sort of treatment later years. Maxwell had just as big of a fall as any of the others, in my opinion.
Oh, this is just kind of, if you want to know what the British public are like, look at this. It's like, we'll cheer you, we'll build you up and let you know you're doing good, you're one of our favourites. But if you start saying that, yes, I'm the favourite, it's like, no, well, fuck you. That's Britain for you. We love to build you up, but if you admit that we like you, then we'll tear you down.
Yeah.
I think that was the opening quote for the release of the reboot of Devil May Cry. Basically, here's everything you like about it. Throw it out the window. But mind you, I like that game. I
don't think though. I think one of the things that maybe hurt Maxwell in that regard was stuff with Saskia. There'd been a bit of flirting, there'd been a bit of all that going on up until this point. It really got amped up. And coincidentally enough, it ended up getting amped up just as the 2 of them faced eviction together.
Yeah, it kind of became their only story, and then of course there was the thing where, Kamal had to go and agitate it, and throw all the water and all that kind of stuff, and he ended up basically looking like he was bullying Kamal for that, and yeah, I think that was pretty much it. As soon as you start going to that level of kind of physical violence and physical threatening, it's like, that's it. Done.
It did give us, however, Kamal's great comment, at least somebody got wet tonight.
Yeah.
Well done, you. You have basically redeemed yourself.
But I think as well what hurt Saskia and Maxwell in that regard was the air of contrivance. I think they were very blatant in saying we're going to play up to the cameras, we're going to up our game in that way. I think actually Saskia said we're going to up our game in those words. And I think before then, there'd been this air of naturalness about all of the showmans that happened. Like with Michelle and Stuart, we believed it. With the likes of Helen and Paul, we believed it. Saskia and Maxwell were very blatant in being contrived.
But at the same time, they lasted. It's hilarious when you look back on the couples. All the ones that are the popular couples never last. All the ones that were the hated ones, they actually last as a long-term relationship.
Yeah, like Grace and Mikey.
Yep, they're still together.
They've had friends.
Yep.
Oh, word.
But yeah, so it's Saskia who ends up getting evicted that week, and evicted to heavy boots. I remember the reaction there was very, very
It
bad.
was so severe and horrible.
Like watching the Tommy Wiseau's The Room for about 5 days straight.
Okay, we got that, but okay.
Yeah.
See, even Carl got it.
Yeah. I think by that point, it just becomes old, doesn't it?
Yeah. What sort of positive sides were there to Saskia? Because I think she was very similar to Maxwell in that I think there were a lot of people who warmed to her. I don't know if she was it was because she was a glamour girl but didn't really feel like a glamour girl. But she was quite popular in the early weeks. It was just, I think it was the stuff with Makosi, when Makosi was playing drunk and Saskia really overreacted about it.
Yeah, I think it's just, again, once they become the perceived kind of too cool for school kind of characters, it's like, well, screw you then. If you start acting like it's our house and we're going to last to the end because we're the best, that's the moment where the public are like, well, we're going to get you all out one by one.
Yeah.
The thing is, I hate people, women, who go into Big Brother house saying they're glamour models. Just because they can look sexy and pull stupid faces doesn't mean you're a glamour model.
But
You hate
he actually put that
yourself.
off to a T.
I think he actually did, though. I think he did a lot of the grid girl stuff for the motor racing events, so...
Oh my god, oh, that is so glamour. Oh my god.
Make sure you don't go in a little bit too early. I mean, you don't want to go in there mid-race.
I mean, it's the same with the celebrity Big Brother housemates who say, oh, they're glamour models because I can get their tits out and have the picture taken.
Saskia would be on Celebrity Big Brother if she was in now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Come to think of it, it's just basically...
Because she can get her tits out and have a photo taken. Yeah, okay. She's a celebrity. Let's get her in.
Yeah, pretty much.
They were impressive, mind you.
Makosi's are better.
I think about the name of this episode, we'll just call it Makosi's boobs. And other things.
Just edit in a little counter of every time I make a little joke about Makosi's boobs being so and her being so hot. Just basically me going ting.
We come to week 6 now. Things that happened during the week. We had the crying task. Another quite light-hearted thing. I particularly remember Derek absolutely bawling to Candle in the Window. That was the thing that stuck with me during that one.
Yeah.
But we also really got a real intrigue about the whole Derek and Science relationship.
Science?
I found that very interesting between the two because the two of them could be absolutely at loggerheads with each other. Really tearing each other apart. But I don't know, I sort of felt there was this real respect between them. I think Derek saw that Science was this very intelligent kid that we mentioned in the previous week. And I think he sort of felt, I don't know, it was almost a bit of a concern from Derek towards Science and didn't want to see him. I found that relationship between...
He was fatherly.
Fatherly, yeah.
Yeah.
But mind you, the whole entire metaphor of Science meeting Derek is basically, I'm rich. I have lots of money. I'm from East London. I have nothing at all except for a room.
But the fact that two of them on paper seemed so different, yet they were arguably the same. You could see a lot of a lot of science, a lot of Derek in Science.
Yeah, and you can see a lot of Science in Derek.
Was this the week though that Derek made his BNP comment about Science?
I can't remember. I think it was close to that. Was it that week or the next week over?
Oh, you mean that? Oh, you mean that bunch of racists were actually around until that time? My God.
Well, I think the two of them had an argument during that point, and Derek made the suggestion that Science was one of the very few black men that made them want to join the BNP. Yeah. We move on from that, though. That'll probably be cut, don't worry. We're going to go on to, however, the big controversial moment of the week, which was Anthony Makosi in the swimming pool.
It was
Yes!
confusing.
Oh, little sweet mother-fucking Jesus, yes! This was basically what Triple X TV was all about. Kind of.
It was so graphic as well. I was a young kid when I watched the series. I was taken aback by how graphic it was.
And the little Paul was, and then the little Paul. While Carl was horrified, little Paul was basically finding his new purpose in life, conquering those two maleficent mountains of milk. I'm trying not to, but come on. I apologize.
I've got the feeling I always have to put a porn soundtrack over Paul when he's talking.
I apologize.
What?
Carl, do you have any comments about Anthony Makosi? The swimming pool?
Oh, Lord. Yeah, this was... It was... Obviously, we found out later on that we've had more full-on sex in the house before and since. However, this was probably the most graphic. Simply because there was no covers, there was no... This was the first time...
But it's water.
Yeah, but there was no... But usually, again, there's it's in the dark, there's covers, you can tell what's going on, especially, the last series. But at the same time, this was just straight up, like... yeah, exactly. And it was just like, oh my god, is this really happening? And it was like the Sunday night show as well, because it had happened on the Saturday. It wasn't like it was a big show. It was just like, oh my god, did you hear what happened on the show last night? It was one of those things that lived sort of in legend, because I never saw it when it was on, because I don't know why I dismissed the Sunday night show. And then the next day I found out what had happened, and I could not find a replay for the life of me. And I didn't actually see the episode until, when I rewatched it a couple of years ago, and wow.
Yeah, wow.
Best episode ever!
Wow.
Unveil everything, Makosi! Unveil everything! Oh.
My favourite bit was probably Makosi's faces. She pulled the most funny sex faces I've ever seen.
And the funny thing is that Anthony probably had a chance with both of them, but I think Orla, as soon as it became sort of 2-4, she was like, right, done with you, goodbye.
Yeah.
Out the swimming pool, let you two have a little bit of private time.
I was not expecting to go this far.
But mind you, though, I wish I was in the Anthony shoes, because, oh, sweet motherfucking God.
So I do want to ask, though, on your eye, what do you speculate did happen? Did they do it in the pool and did she get pregnant, or...?
No, Jack, she definitely didn't get pregnant.
No, it's come out since. It was not full on. It was just,
Touchy.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that Makosi, for whatever reason, decided to play it up.
But mind you, still.
For God's sake, Paul.
I'm trying not to think about it, but it's not helping. Dead kittens.
Bronies.
Pete Burns.
That's even worse.
Pete Burns with Makosi's tits.
Oh. Thanks, Joseph. You
I'm going to Photoshop that now.
Okay, enough of that.
Yeah, let's move on. But I am going to bring on Makosi pregnancy, because you'd argue Makosi, up until that point, I think people sympathised with her because she was so good at acting and had a lot of fun with it. But I think the pregnancy stuff was when she went a bit too far with it. And I don't
because it goes to that personal level where at that point you're affecting people's lives and people's family, and you're playing with, something that's a really serious issue. And again, it's just that step too far, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because she was saying all this stuff like, I don't want my kid to be called Baby Jacuzzi, stuff like that.
It was fucking hilarious, the stuff that she was saying and doing. The way that she said it was just classic television, but it was just because it was something so serious that is such an issue for so many people that's why it became a problem.
The part I always loved was Makosi in the way that she always does. When she was in the loft area, she turned to the camera and goes, I could be pregnant.
Yeah, it was just so over the
Kamal
top.
just completely hams it up, just like, oh my god!
Yeah. It was just so over the top.
And
That's what made it brilliant.
thus slowly calming me down over Makosi, because quite frankly, dick move.
Yeah. And speaking of dicks, we come to Maxwell and Science.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, this was a big eviction. Maxwell versus Science, and I was just really getting into the forums at that point. I wasn't signed up for them, but I was really getting into reading them. And I remember this eviction being so fierce on the internet. And I mean, there were very pro-Science on there as well, so that was probably the first time we've had like big campaigns since then. We had the one with Ashley trying to keep her in over Charlie. This was probably the first really big internet campaign eviction that happened, trying to save Science. And I remember the bookies just absolutely couldn't call it. They were like dead even all the way through coming up that week. And Maxwell, of course, being Maxwell, thinking he's Mr. Popular, he thinks, I'm safe this week, Science is going to go. And then we get a great moment when Maxwell's name gets read.
Yeah.
The drop in his face, it was so funny.
But
Absolutely love it.
But again, people always remember like great Big Brother, like downfalls, great Big Brother reactions. They'll always mention the likes of Katrea, they'll always mention Caesar. Maxwell, again, overlooked.
Yeah. Yeah, I do suppose, yeah. So, Maxwell's eviction did make me cry.
How did it make you cry?
No, it didn't.
Oh.
Katrea's did.
Yeah, I remember that.
Ah, there. Mind you, I'm just giving you a fictional pat on the back, so, and also, just there.
Yeah. So this is where we talk about our opinions of Maxwell, and we'll let Carl take this off.
Carl?
What am I doing? Sorry, carry on.
You're talking about Maxwell.
Right, yeah, he was, again, there was times where he was just the fun lad, there was times where, but he just became too full of himself, he just became kind of, this is my house, I'm the most popular one, and you all better bow down to me kind of attitude, and people were just had enough of that and got rid of him. I don't think he was a bad person, I just think he got too big for his own good.
I think one of the big issues I have with Maxwell, though, is I sort of make the argument that sort of arrogant lad housemate has sort of become the benchmark in all the series, and every year we get someone who's just basically an evolution of Maxwell in, and nearly always is some of the worst housemates of the season, and I sort of blame him for that. He's sort of that benchmark come for all the other awful housemates that come since him.
Maybe they just captured him and started to clone him over and over again with little tiny bit of imperfections.
Oh god, I don't even want to think of that.
But again, whatever happens in this melon of mine just basically doesn't happen.
But I'll admit, I didn't have the biggest problem with early season Maxwell. I thought he was quirky, I thought he could be funny. He did go too far a lot of the times. I mean, the stuff with the toilet plunger and the scabs in particular were just disgusting.
Yeah.
He wasn't overtly god-awful in the way that someone like, I don't know, John James was.
Oh god. Don't even mention him.
Continue.
Yes. So, that's Maxwell covered. A great eviction, though. A really great eviction. And I remember the forums were just absolutely over the moon with that.
Yeah.
That was one of their big achievements. So, the Maxwell Free House moves on to week 7. And we get the 2 lies twist.
Okay.
And this is really where the speculation and the paranoia of the housemates really gets played up, in my opinion. The whole concept is that Big Brother is going to tell 2 lies over the course of the week. The first one is that nominations are optional for this week, which was a lie, and all the housemates who didn't nominate were going to face a public vote. The second lie was that the 3 people who were the nominee, who did nominate that week, which are Anthony, Craig, and Kamal, were nominated. That was the lie. It was the other housemates.
It was one of the kind of twists that they do these days. Yeah.
Did it work?
Bastards.
It was fine for doing it once, but I think it's just one of those things that's become overplayed these days that it kind of puts a taint on it.
And I wish they would stop doing that because they're shamalaning everything. I mean, seriously, you know what? We're going to lie to you. Then we're going to lie again. And then suddenly we'll bring in some sort of distraction. Then the bed sit. And then money.
Yeah.
Then you leave. And then bring in the hot celebrities, including Gary Busey.
Yeah.
Which we'll be getting on to, don't worry. But again, with the paranoia and the mind games, one of the things it really did help to do was sort of bring up a bit of a divide between Kamal and Makosi. Because
the mole thing.
the mole. This is where Kamal really becomes convinced.
Money.
This is where Kamal really becomes convinced that Makosi is a mole and becomes determined that he's going to try and do something to unveil it to the rest of the house.
Didn't Big Brother write something on one of the mirrors?
On the mirrors, there's a mole in the house. So obviously people got paranoid about it, and they found it was just a little toy mole which Eugene found in the garden.
Yeah.
Hello, my name's Molly.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of right, because she was a mole at one point, but only for a week.
And also, you were kind of right there, you know, unveiling Makosi in some sort of way, in a glorious, naked some sort of way, but, you know. Damn it!
Yeah.
Stop thinking about that! They're kittens!
If Makosi had played up to this and acted like the mole, I think she could have gone further. I think she could have won it.
No, I think Makosi was done for by that point. I think the pregnancy stuff she was never going to recover from.
Because you don't fake a pregnancy. That's just wrong.
The thing I want to bring up, however, next up, just before we get to that week's eviction, which gets very complicated, it's again, as Paul mentioned, the shine the line approach to Big Brother. We've got to discuss Anthony and Craig. This is really where it becomes a big thing between them, because I don't know if it was because he just lost Maxwell and he wanted to try and be more of a united duo, but the relationship between the two really gets close between them. And I found it very interesting as well, considering... Paul, you're distracting me with...
Sorry. But it is close to that.
I think Brokeback Mountain actually came out that year, so...
Oh my god. Big Brother was involved in producing something like that.
Yeah, but I found it was almost ahead of its time, really. That sort of story on British television of the gay man falling in love with his best friend, that hadn't been done before. I thought it was very...
Well, it wasn't like it was fictionalized. This was real people, and this was just, you could tell what was happening there, and it's hilarious, that they would take the side of Anthony in that whole thing. But at the same time, I think it comes down to the fact that Anthony was almost kind of the hapless head in the clouds victim. It's like, well, it wasn't his fault, really. I mean, at the end of the day, the guy's straight and there's nothing he can do about that. So I think that's why people took his side, because I think Craig went a bit too over the top with it. And I think people think he should have realised how cringe he was being. I think that's what it came down to. And I think people thought, give the guy a rest now. It's not going to happen, kind of thing.
Maybe he couldn't quit him. Maybe he couldn't. Be apart from him anymore.
And I think this is what also kind of Anthony was kind of lumped in there with the Saskias and the Maxwells, but this was the moment where I think he started to become popular again. It was because people felt sympathy for him for this whole thing.
Romance.
How much of Makosi's and not Makosi? How much? Thanks, Paul. You got me obsessed with it.
You're welcome. Oh.
How
embrace it.
How much of Anthony's side of that relationship do you think was intentional, though? I know Carl tried to make it out that Anthony was portrayed as the hapless victim. At times, though, I was left feeling that Anthony sort of clicked on to what Craig was feeling about him. And whether or not he led him on or he just enjoyed the attention that Craig was giving him, he sort of played up his part, though, because there was all the stuff with him powerbombing in the pool and all that sort of stuff. It was a lot of it from Anthony, which sort of led Craig on, and I think that's why Craig's emotional side came out about it and why he took it seriously.
But if just being laddie like you would with any other friend, is that leading somebody on, or is that just doing what you do with a normal friend and not realising? I don't think he even knew that Craig was, I don't know.
Yeah.
I totally disagree there, Carl. I think Anthony did know what was going on. He's smarter than he looks, and I think he was kind of leading Craig on.
But what does he get out of that? That's what I'm saying.
A showman.
He gets the attention from Craig.
Yeah. He gets a camera.
Yeah, yes, but what does that give him? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's all well and good to come up with conspiracy theories, but if they don't actually make sense, that's all I'm saying.
I don't think he did it with the intention of Craig's going to lust over me, that's going to win me the show, because I don't think Anthony's that smart, but I do think Anthony is quite a shallow person. I think he likes the idea of somebody fawning over him in the way that Craig was.
Fair play.
Yeah.
I still think it was kind of just on his part, he was just an idiot who didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah. Well, wasn't there an E4 drama which came afterwards, which was basically the same thing? I think
there was.
Sugar Rush.
Well, yeah, that's doing it from a fictional standpoint. I mean, this is something that probably has been happening for hundreds of years, so it's just.
To be honest, that show was, I would like to say, meh.
Meh. Nothing meh about the eviction though. Of course, the housemates find out that the people who refuse to nominate are the nominees.
Mm-hmm.
And Vanessa and Makosi received the most votes. Now, they twisted it for this week. This is a very Channel 5 approach to try and keep the biggest housemate in. Because, let's be honest, there was only one reason they pulled this eviction, which was to save Makosi.
Save the beautiful one with her with her beauty and big, massive assets. And also, Shyamalan.
Yes, Shyamalan. But of course, the House is going to vote for who they want to save that week. And of course, there's no question, Vanessa's going to go that week. But everyone bar Kamal, keeping on with the whole Kamal paranoia from the week, all vote to save Vanessa. And Vanessa was evicted that week.
Ha! But, my opinion about her is basically, she was a bitch.
Well, she wasn't really anything, and I think that's one of the big problems that they have with Vanessa.
She was just kind of an annoying little shrew.
Yeah. I mean...
Yeah.
Sorry. I go on places like Survivor Sucks, and I know Sucks has a thing about under-the-radar female women, and I apologise if anybody listening to Sucks gets upset by this, but they've started this real re-appreciation of Vanessa, trying to make it out as she was this hilarious under-the-radar character. I'm sorry, she was dull as dishwater.
She was Dave from...
She was Makosi's sidekick, nothing more, nothing less. She had one note and that was it.
She ate, slept,
entertaining Vanessa was when she was out the house. In the hospital, when she fell off the bed.
Alright, aye.
Yeah. I believe as well, though, she was one of the first to admit that she blatantly lied in the VT as well. Because I think she'd been friends with Marco. Marco gave her all the tips on how she was going to get cast.
Alright.
And I think quite similar to Mary as well. Yes, she sold herself as a big, over-the-top character. Once she saw that there were so many bigger characters ahead of her, she went into a shell.
Yeah.
The bitch.
But people try and make her out that she's this great character. She isn't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She's basically more one-dimensional than Cargo.
But she wasn't one-dimensional. She was still a big character, and I can imagine if you put her in something like Big Brother 8, for example, she'd probably do quite well.
But
in a series like 6, she just gets drawn out by all the big characters, and the shortcomings are shown up, whether fairly or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other Vanessa comments from anyone?
No.
Okay, we go up to week 8 though, the infamous week 8, always known for taking out a big character, and this week is unfortunately no exception. Before that though, we get to the dog training task.
Fear the side dog, for it cannot be contained!
Yes, this is where science is in its absolute element, in my mind. The dog training task is absolutely amazing. We come up to week 8 though, the infamous week 8, always known for taking out a big character, and this week's unfortunately no exception, we'll get to it later. Before that though, we've got the dog training tasks to get through.
Introducing Side Dog, for his awesomeness cannot be contained!
Yes, this is where science, or Psydog as he was referred to, was at its absolute element.
Side Dog!
I mean, he was just pretty much in confrontation with everybody.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was him again, sort of, he went too far, and people were just like, okay, we're bored of you now. Like, everybody seems to have a shelf life with the British public, where eventually they're just like, okay, yeah, we've seen this joke now.
Yeah, and I could sort of see that with Science, but in my opinion, he was still entertaining with it. I mean,
But it's just the general public.
Well, look how exasperated Kamal got, because Kamal was supposed to be the dog trainer.
Yeah.
And Kamal was just getting himself increasingly wound up because he just could not keep a handle on Science.
I think I remember seeing the. I think I can remember seeing the diary room entry of that.
How am I supposed to control this? What do you mean this? What do you mean this? I'm Psydog, I can't be contained.
Yeah, it was just the fact he was so
just
funny
thinking
doing it, but it was obvious.
But my God.
He was so funny doing it, but it's obvious that he was deliberately messing up the task, which is what the problem is.
Psydog.
The dog training task had a lot of other funny moments though. I remember Eugene, because he had to do a pause on the stand, and Eugene was just doing it like a zombie.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was weird.
Psydog.
Eugene had a lot of those funny moments though, and I think as the show got a lot darker and a lot argumentative, Eugene became the comedy relief, and I think that was one of the reasons why he ended up building a bit of a fan base by that point.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that his actual his big brother picture makes him look like an absolute berg. So.
Well, that's Eugene though. That's that sort of character. I mean, sort of geek culture has sort of become a mainstream thing now. And
Yeah.
So basically,
It's just like everything he said, it was kind of, cringe. You know, it was kind of like, he couldn't say anything without it coming out awkward.
Yeah. He was like the John Tickle of this series.
He's a DJ now, you know.
Alright.
He's I don't know where he's playing at, but I remember seeing an article about what the Big Brother housemates are doing after Big Brother, and apparently Eugene's now a DJ.
Oh, cool.
And also probably swimming in so much nerd lover.
Well, he's in his element now. Stuff like the Big Bang Theory being successful, he's in his element.
Oh, we're all in our element. I mean, you know, someday it is.
Not after all the Makosi stuff, Paul. Sorry.
Maybe Makosi, eh?
But whilst Eugene was winning fans, the other intruder was really struggling, and this is where we talk about Orla.
Oh, yes, yeah.
She just became the negative, I want to go person. It was just like, ugh.
I know. One of my favourite parts of that was when Big Brother played Should I Stay or Should I Go? That was just the icing on the cake. It was brilliant.
Really, Big Brother, you're basically the kid who kicks the bloody hornet's nest at this point in time.
But she was miserable with it though. That was the thing, and that was the thing with Olive was that even before then, she was just, in my opinion, a very dull, dreary character, and she was sucking a lot of the life out of the house. I mean, there was the argument with Science as well, and I know Science was probably in the wrong there, but she just came across so joyless.
She was definitely the wrong choice out of her and the other one.
I'm just going to leave it alone because, you know, we're going back to the pool thing, and she was sucking a little bit something else before that time.
Remind me to try and take out as many Makosi references as you can.
No, don't, pal. Leave him in. I will pay you money. Not literally, but, you know.
Oh, dear.
Yes, we'll move on though. But of course, it is Science versus Olaf that's going to happen that week, and the bookies have it certain. Olaf is going to go that week, and I think Olaf at one point was 50 to 1 on to go. You have to pay £50 to get one back. It was a given. She was going to go that week. How does Science go?
Because stupid British public with their stupid vote of it.
Helen!
But mind you, it was close. 1%.
1% eviction, and I think that's the second closest eviction ever. I think Alex versus Alison in Big Brother 3. That was the smallest.
0.5%, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But really, I've always think this is probably the worst eviction ever, in my opinion. Because the fact that someone like Olaf, who wanted to go, who wasn't providing any sort of entertainment, ends up staying that week over science who was being provocative, being argumentative, and doing it in a brilliant
The
pantomime.
star of the show.
Star of the show.
It's kind of the same as the next year where Susie would stay over like Nikki Graham. It was like, really, people, really.
It really didn't understand that one, and it annoys me so much that the public decided on this decision.
Because science was awesome.
One thing I will say though, and you sort of touched on it before, Carl, I think all housemates have a set shelf life, and I do think science was reaching the end of his, but he should still be staying over the likes of Olive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you there.
And this is the chance for us to talk about all the great science moments. I'll let you all start.
Science!
Well, he had so many. He was just a brilliant character. I wish that every year had a character like Science, because he was just brilliant.
I think I remember one quote that we forgot to touch up on. They were having an argument with one of them, with three of them against Science.
Yes, we touched on that, Paul.
And, that moment he was set to be a bit of a personality in the house. And please, whoever can find Science's YouTube page, please post it in the comments, because I want to subscribe desperately. And if it doesn't have any long comment, just let me know if it exists, because I know for a dang fact he'll probably be talking about some funny stuff.
I've always loved Science, and in fact when we did the Ultimate Big Brother 2 cast, I had Science as my absolute lock to be there. He was probably the first name on my list.
Yeah.
Very great housemate and a great loss to the show. Week 9 though, and we see a twist to nominations. Now it was the only time we ever did this, and it's something I'd love to see again, and that's positive nominations. Instead of people who you want to get rid of, you're voting for people who you want to save, who you like, and you want to stay in the house. And I thought that was a nice twist. I felt
It gives something that's so negative something positive.
Certainly, yeah. Because I remember, but as well, there was a lot of over speculation. Anthony and Craig were starting their arguments at this point, and so there was a whole spec of would Anthony and Craig save each other? Of course they do. Because of the fact that the honeymoon period is not over yet. There's still a lot of fun to be done.
I think it was literally just the fact that Craig was the only one left of that friendship group, and I think Anthony thought he would have gone nuts if he had to stay in the house with the others.
Yeah.
But I think it was a nice touch, and I think arguably because of how the producers realised the show was getting too negative for its own good, try to do something positive. But I like that one, and of course we get Kamal and Ola for the people with the least votes, so them two are going to face the public vote, which we'll get to later. And next we get the spy theme task. Series of mini tasks. I think Derek is the head of their secret services as well.
I can see that fucking being some sort of smart guy just saying, "You welcome to the
I see him as being the villain stroking his cat.
Well, he's got the bald head, so
I am
ghastly.
Well, there was this great moment as well when he went into the headquarters, which is done in like the luxury bedroom. He's like, "Oh, I feel like Churchill."
Yes.
Oh my god, you just sprung up a brilliant idea for because most of the time British guys are always pictured as the villain. You could basically have some sort of villain like the Churchill. I have become the ultimate British person. Fear me, for I've absorbed most of Britain.
But it was great fun, and I loved it how everyone started taking it, because this was where Eugene really is in his element, because this is the Morse code stuff.
Yeah.
Did it all.
He's a bit of I do like Eugene's geekiness. It was such an endearing thing.
It was an endearing quality, and I felt as well, because we never really got that sort of geek before, and that was one of the things that appealed to him, and I felt Eugene really benefited from this task, and I think almost out of nowhere, really, he becomes this big contender to win.
Yeah.
But the big story from that week, though, it revolves around Anthony and Craig. Because first of all, we get the big argument where Anthony compares Craig to Myra Hindley.
Yeah. He does look like him, though. I've had a look at a picture while we were talking. He does. It's scary.
Maybe
But,
he was him in disguise.
Okay, let's not go into that.
Okay.
But he really kicked off about that. And then there was Drunk Anthony. And this is really where Craig is at his extreme worst around him.
Yeah, this was the moment where Craig went so far. Now it's creepy. Yeah.
Great. Anthony, I want to wear your face.
Well, no, because I remember Anthony was just absolutely plastered. I mean, absolutely pig drunk.
Yeah, I don't think it was that he was taking advantage of him in any way, as some people saw it. I think it was literally just. I think it literally was just that they were both off the face, and he said what had been on his mind, but he was too drunk to hear it, kind of thing, and it was just awkward.
Well,
Yeah.
I did find it quite alarming though how I think Craig maybe did care for Anthony and was just trying to do that, trying to care for him in that regard. It was the way that people like Eugene were coming in, trying to help out as well, and Craig was pushing them away.
Yeah. Yeah,
That was
it was
wow.
just weird. Just weird.
Oh my god.
Hey, we can cut this out if you like. Paul, do you have access to Facebook at the minute?
Not at the current moment, no.
Okay, I'll send it to you, Carl. There you go.
I'll get it, Joe. Don't worry.
There you go. I'll show that to Paul.
Okay. But we come to that next eviction though, and it's very similar to the last week's eviction where we have a big over-the-top character in Kamal versus Olaf. Once again, Olaf is the favourite to go, and once again, Olaf very unfairly stays. Because I mean, the argument could be with Science. Science has sort of run his course by that point, just started to get a little bit irritating. With Kamal though, I still felt Kamal had a lot more to give. It really annoys me that, once again, a dull character like Olaf, who completely shot a load, was just killing the mood and killing the airtime of the show.
She was so boring.
She was awful. Really,
but again, the vote evict, it brings around negativity. It's people venting their hate and being like, "I hate you, I'm getting you out of there." Like, and that leaves the people who are doing nothing in there, and they get to the end and go, "Oh wow, the show's got boring." Well, I wonder why.
Yeah.
It's your own fault, and it annoys me that the public are either easily manipulated by the edit and just buy into everything the producers tell them to, or they have such a short-term attitude to the show that they don't think about the repercussions of what they're voting for.
People just like to fight in big, massive armies. That's why I like.
Well, it's an impulse medium. It's always been an impulse medium, and that's what production are cashing on. That's why it's a vote to evict rather than a vote to save the civilian version. But I wish the voting audience would just have a bit more common sense and just realise the ramifications of what they're doing sometimes. And I think this eviction is just another example of that. But we have to discuss Kamal though, and I think nobody had Kamal down as somebody who they would really want to. I think they were always thought he was going to be a big character, but I don't think they were ever going to expect him to be as enamoured by him in the way that what we were. I really liked Kamal as a housemate.
To be
I
honest,
loved him as a housemate. He was amazing.
To be honest, on one hand, he was a bit. Well, he was fun. He was fun. Especially when he came in looking like some sort of Indian,
coming in the
Sasari or something. Oh yeah, he came in as Sasari, but that was fun. But yeah, it was entertaining, but sort of died down after a while.
But it was a complexity towards Kamal as well. Yes, he was as camp as Christmas, but there was more to him than just being camp.
And wait for it, he actually starred in a. He actually starred in a short-lived series on Channel 4 for a bit.
What was it again?
I think it was something to do with East London and all sorts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of the good subplots I also liked about Kamal was Kamal had never told his parents beforehand he was out. They were going to find out on the show. And there's this really quite uncomfortable moment where Kamal's parents come out onto stage because Kamal's in his full-on sari. And his dad's very uneasy around him. I found that very noticeable. What about you, Carl? Any great Kamal moments?
He was one of those characters who was in there for kind of the face value. He was there for his journey of coming out as being from this sort of anti-gay culture and coming out as this kind of gay transsexual kind of person.
Now, isn't he?
Yeah, it was unfortunately, we've seen a young man going through an identity crisis, and that was his entire appeal. So.
I think he's gone through the full process now. I think Kamal Shaheen, as he was, no longer exists. I think he goes by the name of Zaluka now.
Okay. Well, you can definitely see the elements there, and that was him. But he had a charisma to him that gave some nice lines and some nice moments, and he certainly added to the show when he was in there. But unfortunately, he, with some of the people that were in there, he kind of came off as a secondary to Makosi, really.
Yeah.
But I think he was a good secondary character, though.
Yes, he was Makosi's sidekick. He was,
Leave it alone. I'm just going to leave it alone.
Yeah.
He was the Mystique to Makosi's Magneto.
Yes. That's a good way to put it. I like that. Although I am now imagining Kamal in blue latex. And that's...
Oh dear. Well, he did. Well, he transformed, so.
Yes. I like that. I like that.
Must not picture Makosi in blue latex. Oh God, there it is. Oh.
For God's sake.
Okay.
Christ.
Well, we'll move on, and we're going to move on to...
Makosi, as played by Ian McKellen. There's an image.
Oh,
Carry on. Carry on.
That's brilliant. But now we come to probably the main reason why a lot of people disliked Olaf. Olaf has single-handedly helped us to get rid of the two biggest characters in Big Brother history, and then straight afterwards, she decides to go. And all of any sort of justification for keeping Olaf around is completely gone. And I think there's a real in the community, and it stems from this, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's kind of like, we got rid of all these characters, and you stayed, and then you walked out, so we could have kept one of those big characters. Bye, bitch.
But mind you, on the other hand, though, a lot of people who actually placed money on the bookies for her to leave actually would.
The bookies would have made an absolute windfall in there, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if the bookies played a part in helping to get rid of Kamal.
Well, it was it was just a case of, another bigger character added more to the show could have stayed, and you could have gone.
It is.
Yeah, because she wanted to go anyway, and it really annoys, and that's, as I mentioned before, that's the main reason why a lot of people in the community dislike Olaf, because she is, fairly or not, she is held responsible for getting rid of Kamal and Science.
Yeah.
That's science. Leave.
I know. Were there any positives to Olaf, though?
No.
She was nice enough at times. She was kind of harmless until she became negative.
Until she became a bitch.
Then she was hot, though.
But of course, Olaf's going to need her place taken before the week. And of course, there's only one person who can take up that role, and production make the absolute masterstroke.
Get the Kinga signal.
Exactly.
It's just basically a wine bottle.
Imagine Kim in the house dressed as a wine bottle, and the irony of that.
Oh, yeah.
But Kinga's in to take Olaf's place, and as I said before, it was an absolute masterstroke because Kinga comes in full of energy. And she pretty much hijacks the week, in my opinion. I've got my list of notes here, and all of them about things that
Kinga. Yeah.
Kinga.
The show needed something to liven it back up after all these big characters had left. They decided, she was kind, she had more to give, so let's put her back in. And she, let's just say she went 110% to deliver.
Yeah,
she did. She was
bloody 10%, 220% more like bloody.
She was absolutely fantastic in the role.
Yeah,
really was. One of the things I found quite interesting was the relationship between her and Derek. Because I never would have thought that someone like Derek would find Kinga so endearing. And yet, them two really became, I wouldn't say good friends, but they got on. And I just thought, my initial thinking when I first watched it was, what the hell is Derek going to do?
Yeah, it's bizarre. Yeah, it's just kind of everything that he hates but he liked her. I think it was just kind of for him a new shiny toy.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a great moment as well where Kinga, of course, being Kinga, was in the pool with Derek and let Derek feel the breasts, and Derek was like, "Oh, I'm scared. I've never touched a girl's breast before."
How are you alive, mate?
Well, he's gay.
Oh, fair dues. But yeah. But alongside that, well, something came along. Up. And let's just say a little bit of alcohol really hurts a lot of people.
Not a little bit of alcohol, a lot of alcohol.
Yeah, a lot of alcohol.
Well, she got the most out of the content and the container.
Yes. So
well said.
And
make sure she doesn't stand up, because that wine's going to taste a little bit funny after a while.
And this is where we discuss the wine bottle stuff, because honestly, this is up there with Galloway being the cat in terms of Big Brother's cringiest moments.
Yeah.
So cringy.
And I think what helps is that it was almost like when you have a comedy and you have a laugh track. It was kind of like you had that, but with Anthony and Craig's reactions were like our reactions, but on screen, and it made it that much better.
Craig's laugh is just absolutely.
It's kind of you know, it's the kind of Heath Ledger Joker effect. It's the kind of what you don't show makes it worse.
Yeah.
Because they didn't show what she was doing and it just showed their reaction, it made it that much funnier, that much, instead of just disturbing and disgusting, it was kind of hilariously, oh my god. And it was kind of like, you know, you saw their reactions being our reactions to it, and yeah, and what actually happened was left to your imagination, which made it that much worse. I think with her, she knew what had made the headlines this series, and she knew that she had to do something absolutely insane to be remembered, and she did. I'm sure 10 years later, she's probably regretting it.
Probably, yeah.
I love the fact that during the eviction, people in the crowd were coming with inflatable bottles in the crowd.
Yeah, like, she'll always be remembered, but she'll always be remembered for being that.
For giving a wine bottle another good year.
So many great moments in that whole scene though. There was Craig's hysterics. There was that moment where Kinga does a business, and that look on her face, that realization of, oh my god, I am actually doing this on television. And then Anthony's face as Kinga goes to the garden. Anthony's face was just sheer horror.
But he didn't look away though, did he?
No.
No one would look away from that. Oh, it'd be like looking at a car crash. But a car crash and a Twilight movie all rolled in one. It's so horrific. It's so horrifying. You can't even look away.
So it was such an infamous moment, and there was no way they would ever get away with that if they did it in the Channel 5 either.
Oh, there would have been 10,000 Ofcom complaints.
Like Doctor Who with a world-renowned, earth-shattering lesbian kiss that got 6 complaints. Between Elizabeth.
People just need to grow up and get off their high horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're too moralist.
Yeah.
We move on to the rodeo task now. A lot of Western themed stuff. The one thing that, again, it's another Kinga moment, but the thing that stands out for me is Kinga's complete inability to get on the bucking bronco.
And needs help of 2 people to get on.
She can get a wine bottle up there, but getting a bucking bronco, you need a little bit of help with that. Oh dear God, I just put a very, very disturbing image in my head.
But I just think it was just great comedy, and you see Kinga flapping on trying to climb up.
Sweet.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good, funny moment. And unfortunately, it distracts us from another bad eviction, because one of Derek and Eugene is going to go. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, with 58% of the vote to evict, it ends up being Derek.
Which is sad.
I think it was the right choice, though. Out of Eugene and Derek.
No, as a character, though, Derek was just absolutely amazing. And I think
better than
the only justification I could have for Derek going that week is that Derek gets the full week's worth of treatment.
Yeah.
And wouldn't do as a finalist. Derek, for me, was just absolutely fantastic. Such a great character, in my opinion. I'd argue, unfortunately, I think people might disagree with me because I know we got a lot of science fans. Derek was the star of the show for me. He had this wit, he was clever, he was intelligent, and he had some great, quirky moments.
He was basically science from the future.
Well, yeah.
No, I think the thing with him was he had a really nasty side to him that I didn't like when he would go that far. But when he was funny, he was very funny.
Yes, I can't deny Derek's nasty side, but the funniness outweighed it. It's sort of like Richard in Big Brother 7.
Yeah, big gay Canadian.
But I would argue that he was nicer.
Yeah. What other sort of Derek moments come to mind for you?
Just all these funny little things he said, like ghastly and all that.
Just his image, his promo picture, just everything about him you never need to see. That wave.
And also the look of his profile picture as well. You know?
Yeah, that's sort of like I am better than you and you know it.
I've got many than you.
Yeah.
He was also one of the, I think, arguably, he was one of the housemates from Big Brother 6 that probably had the biggest mainstream impact as well, because he did Celebrity Millionaire with Edwina Curry. He sort of started becoming like I think he appeared on Newsnight a couple of times to talk about political issues. I think there was even a poll done shortly after the series ended, and this shows recency bias more than anything. The public were asked to vote for their favourite Tories of all time. Winston Churchill was number 1, Margaret Thatcher was 2nd, Derek was 3rd.
Yes. I mean, Gordon Bennett and Mighty. I mean, that is actually showing you a little bit too much. Just to be considered one of in the top 3 of the most favoured Tories. Mind you, why the hell Margaret Thatcher's up there, I'll never know. Is brilliant for me. So go on, Derek.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, our hopes and dreams go with you.
One thing we didn't talk about as well is the banner. The airplane banner.
Yes, because there wasn't that Derek for Prime Minister.
Yeah. And that kind of gave him a big head, but I think it was quite funny.
Oh, it was funny. I was funny.
Yeah.
I've always loved Derek. Again, he's one of the people I put in my Ultimate Big Brother 2 cast. We'll come up though to the final week. Some things that came to mind. We had Makosi getting kidnapped, and everybody had to have the choice of take a bribe or let Makosi out. Everybody took the bribe.
What the hell? Screw you!
Well, that's what happens.
No, not Makosi. No.
And we also get the extra task. We get the cosplay task that they always do at the end of the year, where they have to do a play, all that stuff. And then we get the midweek eviction, where the house vote to win lines have been opened, and Craig gets the least votes to win, and ends up being evicted during a Chinese takeaway.
Oh no!
This is our chance to talk about Craig.
Not as sad as the cat being evicted during her meal, but. in a big afro wig.
You're never going to let that go, are you, Joe?
No, it was the saddest thing ever in Big Brother.
We have to talk about Craig though, and because to be honest, I don't think anybody ever had Craig down to be such a complex character. I think everybody's stories launched on FBT is just what it's going to be an argument and Queen.
Yeah, everything thought it was going to be one note, and he ended up with this very complex story that goes to a much more complex issue than what he was on face value.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that gave him a lot of haters because I think a lot of people found him creepy because of it.
Yeah. I'd argue though, the Anthony and Craig stuff, that's probably up there with one of the best romantic stories in Big Brother history though.
Clang, 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 clang.
Yeah. What good positive moments does people have with Craig? Any sort of things that come to mind?
Well, apart from the fact that he's got a massive forehead, that could probably have a.
He was funny. He was over the top and sort of entertaining at times.
Yeah, he was.
Early on.
Yeah, I think by the end though, I think people were sick of him, and I don't think the impact of him going would have been as much if he had made the final. I think it's sort of fit his storyline to go before Anthony.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But shortly after that eviction, we end up getting the 50 grand twist. And this was quite controversial. In my opinion, it plays a big part in the final result. Because one housemate is called to the diary room, Eugene decides to go, and he gets the option. Take half the prize money now, or leave it as part of the prize fund. If he does, Eugene doesn't know this, if he does, the prize fund gets doubled. Eugene decides to take the 50 grand, and in my opinion, he loses the show because of this.
Yeah, I think he was popular enough to probably win, and this was an unpopular decision that kind of was like, well, it's not going to be you, so I guess, Anthony, you're alright.
But it wasn't... I don't think Eugene was in the wrong for doing it. I don't think people dislike Eugene, saying, oh, Eugene's scum, he took all that money for himself. It's just like...
But I think if he had not done it, I think he would have gained
won
enough. He would have won just because people have been like, yeah, go on, Eugene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the incentive of voting for Eugene in the final was gone.
Again, £15,000.
Yep.
What do you have, Paul? 50,000 or 100,000?
But Eugene...
Probably in his mind... Yeah, I think in his mind he wasn't going to win, though, I think.
Yeah, and that's my thinking as well. I don't think Eugene thought he was going to win. I do think, though, if there was somebody who I think wouldn't have taken money, I know Anthony makes it say, I wouldn't have taken it. I think Eugene was the only person who I think could have said no. Makosi would have taken it. Kinga would have taken it because he'd only just got in and had no chance. And I think Anthony would have done it as well. I know he says he wouldn't have, but that's just me.
Yep.
Yeah. I think the same there, yeah, he wouldn't have taken it.
But yeah, I think that lost Eugene the show, unfortunately, because arguably I preferred him a bit more over Anthony. We'll get to that later. We come to the finale night though, and it's a great finale night. It really shows how good the quality of the show is, but just how far they went and how over the top things were for the finale.
Yeah, it was big. It felt like an event.
It's an event.
Yeah.
But you don't get these days. When you go to Big Brother these days, you get it as a show. This was an event.
Yeah. Well, a finale night on a Channel 5 era is just another eviction night. It doesn't feel special.
They have pictures of fireworks.
There we go. I just summed up the Channel 5 era's finale night. Shit. It's just like a Michael McIntyre stand-up routine. It's repetitive and boring. So get off the stage.
Yes.
I don't know what to make of that. I'm not a big Michael McIntyre fan, but I don't really know what to make of that. We've got to get through the final four, though. 4 people. That's how a finale night should be. Not 6, not 7, 4. And the first one that's going out is Kinga. And I don't think anybody's surprised that Kinga going 4th.
No.
She was only in there for 2 weeks. What a 2 weeks, though.
Yeah.
It just, again, how different would the show have been if she had been chose over Orla?
Yeah.
It would have been totally different.
Wildest wine bottle, struggled to get onto a bucking bronco, basically grossed out the entirety of just nature, made people off their wine for about a few years, decades even. It was a good 2 weeks.
Yeah. The one argument I have with Kinga, and it's the same argument I have with Sam Pepper, is arguably being put in so late into the show where you're fresh and everybody else has struggled because we've had 8 or 9 weeks of being in there already. It's automatically going to make you look better than what you are. And I feared if Kinga was put in from the start, she would get very tired very quickly. I think she worked.
Probably. Her in small doses is a legend. Her all the time is, oh god.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I think if Kinga had been in there from the beginning, she would have been in a week 1, week 2 build.
It would have got old because I think she would have got bored.
Yes.
Yeah.
She worked perfectly in that role, and I can't fault her for it. Next up is Makosi, and quite surprising though, she only got 9% of the vote between 3 people, and I know Makosi was very divisive by that point. A lot of people didn't like her, but a massive character like that only receiving that small percentage.
I didn't like how negative her interview was. I
And
didn't
that's
like.
Leslie was coming to.
Yeah, I didn't like how basically.
It was quite controversial.
It was the first time they'd had that outside crowd thing, probably, and it was the first time where it was almost like Davina was encouraging the booze.
Yeah.
Yes. Because I actually have a transcript of Davina's interview, and she is very harsh. I mean, Davina always gets this reputation of being the nice, chirpy, fun Big Brother horse. She really has it in for Makosi big time, and it's not nice to watch. I really question Davina's professionalism with that interview.
But she did, when she did come back for Ultimate Big Brother, she did apologise to her.
Oh yeah, and that's good, but it's still not right. And I think especially for someone like Makosi, who was such a strong character in the show, and yet Davina focused on all these negatives and nastiness, but also she did nothing to try and hurt the crowd.
Yeah, every other time that the crowd are being like that, she was always, oh, it's just panto, don't worry about it. Whereas this time it was, no, yeah, boo her, she deserves it.
But mind you, I'm going to say this now. She deserves some of it because you don't fake
That was the problem. That was what made her as hated as she was, and that's what I think Davina had her back up about, not about anything else.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I didn't tell you. The funny thing last week, well, the final week in the house, Makosi was trying to change her hair. You know how she came out with
Wave-wash.
long straight hair.
Yeah.
She was trying to take her afro out because it was a weave, which is some people might know it's like you attach it to your hair.
Yeah.
So she was trying to scrape it out, and honestly, her hair looked like Don King. And that was the funniest thing. That was.
I remember that.
It was like that for days, and it just made me laugh every day.
Wasn't there a whole thing, a whole segment on BBLD called Weave Watch?
Yes.
Just talking about the progress of Makosi's weave.
Yeah, and it honestly looked like Don King, and it was hilarious.
She's big, she's frightening, she's terrifying. Mind you, on the other hand, the only redeemable thing is with her is she has a hot body. Everything else is just backstabbing and evil.
Well, what's wrong with that though? On a show like Big Brother, I mean.
Oh, I'm not saying it's bad.
Makosi for me is the perfect example of a Big Brother villain because. Yes, she was argumentative. Yes, she was controversial, confrontational. But she had that charm to her. She had that charisma where she was able to get away with it in a way that other housemates and other villains haven't done so, especially in the Channel 5 era.
Yes, yeah.
That's why she's so beloved. That's why she was unlocked to be on Ultimate Big Brother when she did, because she was one of the few villains that you could actually root for and care for.
She was a
She was fantastic, and I can't thank her
She
enough.
deserves credit for how much she gave to that show and how entertaining she made that show, and it would not have been the show it had been without her, Science, and Derek.
Yes, and Kamal to an extent.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth,
And Anthony.
she was entertaining as a villain, and to be honest, I'm sorry for saying this, she has a hot body. Moving on!
And that's the end of it. That's the last Makosi reference we'll get.
Can I just do one more thing?
No.
Anyway,
We're
moving
good.
on.
Final two time. Final two. And it sort of sums up the Big Brother franchise that in a series full of so many big characters, two of the weaker ones end up being the final two. It's Eugene versus Anthony, the cool kids versus the nerds, and it's the cool kids that end up winning. Anthony gets the win. And he gets the win with, I believe, it was quite close actually, 57% of the vote to win. So it was quite close, even with the drawback that Eugene had of taking the money.
Yep.
We're going to talk about Eugene though, because he's probably one of the most unlikely final two participants, especially at that time. He's one of the unlikely final two participants because he is this geeky, nerdy kid who wins over the public and very nearly wins the show.
Aye. Until he took the 50,000. Which was, to tell you the truth, taking the money out of the prize fund is, well, a bit of a dick move. So,
but I don't think he thought he was going to win. I justified in that regard. I mean, it was wrong. It was wrong for him winning the show, but I don't fault him for doing it because Eugene didn't think he was going to win.
So yeah.
What about Eugene, though? What sort of good Eugene moments can people think of?
Oh,
He was
just really funny.
Yeah, he had this kind of. He was funny, but unintentionally, whereas the others, it kind of came across as that was them putting on a show. He was just him.
Yeah, because he would tell these stories about how he put electrical equipment in washing machines and just see them go around just to see what would happen. And that sort of stuff. I mean, it's geeky stuff, and I mean, you shouldn't find it funny, but it was funny because Eugene seemed to love it so much, and everyone was just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Mind you, on the other hand, though, I would love to see the reaction to his parents when he comes home. I thought, okay, I can honestly admit, I built the house, but I thought it was funny to begin with, so I did it anyway.
And the way he would just stare into cameras for just no reason.
Camera!
I just really just felt sorry for him, really, a lot of the time. He was just kind of a fragile personality in there with some crazy people.
Yeah.
Crazy people.
But arguably, he was one of the more normal people, and I think that was
Exactly, yeah.
Either. Someone like Eugene's considered normal. That's a good.
I know. Isn't that something?
Well, Eugene's our runner-up, and we end up getting Anthony as our winner.
Nana Button!
What's that?
Nana Button! I did it! That was the funniest thing. That was probably the highlight of the finale.
Yeah.
To win all the fireworks and everything, and he used to say, Nana Hutton, I did it.
I sort of go back and forth over Anthony as a winner because he's not a good winner. I stress that. He's not a good winner and will always be bottom tier to me. But I think there are some people who maybe give him a bit too much negativity for their own good. I think what he was he was a normal lad. Yes, he had some negative qualities. He was just a normal lad in an extreme house. And I think the main gripe that people have with Anthony was he won Big Brother 6, not that he won Big Brother in general. He won that series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, Anthony did have moments. Yeah, he wasn't the best person in the world. I stress that.
Yeah, but he wasn't Rachel Rice.
I like
Oh
Red
my god,
Rice.
don't even bring that in.
I will always
Worst
respect
winner
Rachel
ever.
Rice. You should have watched Big Brother 15, Georgian. You'd question that judgment.
Oh, God.
That
Yeah,
was
but-
fixed.
What are opinions of Anthony? To pick up?
He was a
He was
normal. He was a normal lad who had his ups, had his downs, but I think he was really what won it for him was that he was identifiable.
Yeah.
Not big.
No,
I think
I think a lot of at that time the show was very mainstream, so there was still straight men watching it, which is not as many these days. So I think maybe they identified with him if they'd been in that kind of situation. Like this,
Yeah.
So they started out in sympathy for him for that situation, maybe.
No, I think that's a fair argument. And of course, he tried to cash in on his fame because he did the celebrity football show, The March, and I actually found this in the bargain bin. This is the reason why I bring it up. I found this in the bargain bin. Anthony's 70s disco workout.
Oh, dear.
Oh my god.
Old salty sea Christ.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. How to sell out my
Find it on Amazon now.
God damn it. Great.
However, though, one thing I will say, though, even with Anthony's win, it doesn't end this series. This is one of the best Big Brother series.
No.
I don't think he was a bad winner
great.
either, because he did. I don't think he was a bad winner because he did contribute to the show. So we got a winner who contributed. We got a load of great characters. We had amazing moments. Production were at 100%. The housemates were at 100%. This was everything the show should be, and what the standard it should be set to. Unfortunately, they would take the negative elements of this and make that the reason that it was successful, rather than the positive elements as well.
And
Unfortunately, it was ruined by Kinga fucking herself with a bottle.
And I think that's.
I always thought that was the highlight of the show, alongside Makosi. Damn it! Okay, no more Makosi.
No more.
No more Makosi.
Any more, and I'll put a Brony video on.
No more Makosi. For God's sake, no more Makosi.
Show him that picture.
Yeah, I'll show him that picture. Don't you worry, Joe. But Big Brother 6, fantastic show, fantastic entertainment. Definitely the middle point of Big Brother's golden age.
Aye.
And
Yes.
we'll look forward to talking about the other parts of that, Celebrity Big Brother 3, afterwards. For now, though, we're going to be discussing Celebrity 14. That's going to be our next show, which is the Gary Busey series, which is just finishing tomorrow.
Oh god. This is going to be fun.
Who's going to win? Gary.
I'm not making any judgments, Joe. I'm not going to make any judgments, but I am. Really
I think George is going to win.
I think so as well.
George from Gogglebox.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How?
You know, when I saw him, he did actually remind me of Eugene.
Yeah, but how? He's not a celebrity. He's a guy who watched telly.
Yeah, but I think he's going to win just because of there's negative aspects to everybody else. It's one of them.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a genuinely nice guy.
Yeah. But we're really looking forward to covering Celebrity 14. I hope you're looking forward to listening to that one as much as we're looking forward to recording it. But that's the end of the Big Brother 6 podcast. We've had a really great time recording the show. My name's been Carl Bainbridge. That's been Carl Dutton.
Thank you very much.
That's been Paul Barron.
I love you, Makosi.
And that's been Joseph Tilley.
Nana Hutton!
And we'll see you again in the future. Bye-bye for now.
Doodle pip.
Bye-bye.